Hey guys, Bobby here. Welcome back to BS Travel, where we're talking being a digital nomad and occasionally financial independence. So, you've decided to make the leap to become a nomad, to head out into the world. That in itself is a very big decision. We actually have a whole video coming up on some of the factors to consider when making that decision. Am I ready to take that leap? But you, watching this video, are ready to take that leap, and so now it's time to figure out where in the world am I going to go? I'm going to spend the next 6 months, the year, the rest of my life somewhere abroad. How do I determine where is that going to be? Well, we have some things here today to consider when making that decision. So the first factor that I'm looking to consider when moving to a new destination, whether it's to move, retire, become a digital nomad, is the cost of living. Can I afford to move there? What is my budget going to look like? What kind of income will I need to support the lifestyle I'm looking to live in this new destination? The good news for anyone coming from the US is that the vast majority of the places that we're going to be looking at are going to be cheaper than the cost of living in the US. So it's generally going to be less about, is this new lifestyle going to be cheaper? It's going to be more about how much cheaper is it going to be than what I'm paying right now to live in the United States. When considering cost of living, there's really three big factors that I look at first, and that is rent, housing, how much is that going to cost? Transportation, what is going to be my mode of transportation and how much is that going to cost? And then food. And obviously, all three of those factors can vary pretty significantly depending on how I want to live. The first one, rent, again, that's going to depend on, do I want a one bedroom? Do I want a two bedroom? Do I want to be right in the middle of the city? Do I want to be right on the coast versus do I want to be in a more rural town? And obviously, those are going to be personal decisions for you to consider. On the low end, in a Southeast Asian country like Thailand, you may be able to get away with something as cheap as $300 US a month for a reasonable one bedroom apartment. On the high end, in a European country, right in the middle of a major city, you may be paying $2,000 or more. So those prices are going to vary drastically, again, depending on what country do you want to go to and where in that country do you want to live. But, Southeast Asia, Latin America, all of these countries, as a single person or as a couple, you should be able to get away with something well under $1,000 a month if you're willing to give up some of the most high-end amenities. On the transportation front, again, this really depends on how you want to get around and where you are going. If you're moving to a major urban area, one of the disadvantages is that rent might be a little bit higher, but one of the advantages may be that you don't need to have a car of your own, that you can use public transportation, that most of the city is walkable, in which case you can really get that transportation number pretty low. And lastly is food. I think with this one, let's be honest with yourself, right? How much are you willing to cook at home versus how much are you going to eat out? And again, obviously, this varies pretty significantly depending on where you want to go. I was in Thailand recently. We had some of the most amazing meals we ever ate in our entire lives, and they were all about $3 to $4 per person. Obviously, if I am moving to France, I am probably not getting one of the best meals of my life for $3 to $4 per person. So maybe in a country like Thailand, I could eat out for every single meal if I wanted to. If I wanted to move to a European country, I may have to consider cooking for myself significantly more often. But to add up those factors, I'd also put a bucket in there for fun stuff, the scuba diving, the snorkeling, the whatever the fun activity for you is going to be, and bucket those up to get a general sense of what it's going to cost to live by country. There's some amazing resources if you want to do a little bit more research on your own. I'll put the link in the description below, but there's a couple of great websites that give cost of living indexes. They'll break it down by rent, by food, by transportation, by some of the other amenities you might be looking at. So you can get a roundabout idea of how much it's going to cost you to live, and not just live the lifestyle that you want to in some of the countries that you're considering. All right, factor number 2 when considering a destination is going to be safety. No matter how beautiful a country is, no matter how wonderful the people might seem, no matter how affordable it might be, if I don't feel safe leaving my apartment because of the crime in the area, it's not going to be a very enjoyable experience. And so I've got to consider safety. When I'm considering the safety of a location, I'm generally considering two factors. One is more personal to you, and that is, what is my own level of comfortability in various situations? How comfortable am I going to feel if there is a high volume of petty crime? How comfortable am I going to feel if there is, a higher level of violent crime than what I might be used to? And there is no right or wrong answer, but I think it's important to know, for me, what is that level of comfortability, because it may obviously limit the number of places that I'm willing to go to. The second thing to consider when choosing a location based on safety is taking an objective look at the crime levels in that particular area. The good news here is that there are some amazing resources. One of them, which I'll link below in the description, is numio.com, and that will give a crime index score, for various locations around the world. So you can get a general sense of what does crime look like and what is the level to which it exists in that area. To give you some example numbers, the United States was given a score of 49.2 out of 100, so that puts it squarely in the middle. So if you think of kind of what you're used to in the US, you're gonna be somewhere around middle of the pack as far as the whole world is concerned. If we're looking abroad, there are countries that are significantly more dangerous than the US. Venezuela, for example, was given a score of 80. High amount of crime there, maybe a beautiful country, but crime is going to be a very big factor to consider when going to some place like Venezuela. There's also places that are much, much safer than the United States, objectively. Thailand was given a score of 39.2 as far as the crime index score, which puts it much, much lower on the scale than the United States. And so if safety is a very big factor that I'm considering, I may want to look into Southeast Asia or somewhere similar where crime is objectively much lower than it is here in the United States. All right, factor number 3 to consider, and here comes the fun stuff, is climate. What is the weather like in various destinations, and what is the weather that I want to experience my life in? There's some important things to consider when choosing the particular climate. One is seasons. I'm originally from the East Coast US, and when I think seasons, I think maybe a little snow over Christmas, a summer that's relatively mild with a few rain showers. Seasons don't look like that in all destinations. I was recently in Southeast Asia, and seasons there look like dry and rainy. And in the rainy season, it may rain every single day for weeks on end, torrential downpours. And for me, that's going to be a pretty big factor if I plan to spend a full year there, which would include that rainy season. So know what the seasons are, know what the general climate is. Another thing to consider is weather that is enjoyable for a day is not necessarily enjoyable every single day. So I love a good day on the beach where it's 95 degrees, it's sunny, it's hot, I'm sweating, I'm jumping in the ocean or in the pool or whatever. I may not want to experience that 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So I may enjoy a location that has some more variability rather than being directly on the equator. But considering the climate that I want to be in, the climate that I not just want to visit, but I want to live in, is going to be a very big factor in choosing the most appropriate location for you. Next up on our list at number 4 is utilities, including internet. Coming from the United States originally, the notion of not having power consistently, not having drinkable water, not having reliable high-speed internet may have sounded pretty foreign, but it is important not to take these things for granted when looking into other areas of the world to relocate to. What is your level of tolerance for having to walk down the street and fill up your 5-gallon jug of water so that you have drinkable water for the week? What is your tolerance for maybe having rolling brownouts where there isn't going to be power for certain times during the day because there's shortages? An important consideration is internet. If you are working digitally, do you need consistent access to reliable high-speed internet? My wife and I are relocating to Playa del Carmen, Mexico in just a few months, and that was a big consideration for us. She is continuing to work her current position digitally, and so she needs consistent, reliable, high-speed internet so she can get on video calls and do other work. So that was a must for us, and obviously ruled out some locations that aren't going to have similar access to high-speed internet at all times. The last consideration coming in at number 5 that we're going to talk about today when determining where to make your next move to is going to be how far is it from your hometown and how big is the time zone difference between where you're originally from. Again, those two may not seem like tremendous considerations for you. I'm moving there. What's the difference? It's going to be noon at noon. Whatever the flight is, I only have to make it once. And that may or may not be the case. For my wife and I, family is very, very important. And so the difference between a 4-hour flight from Mexico or a 6-hour flight from South America and a 24-hour flight from Asia are very different when we think about coming home every few months to visit our family and see loved ones. And so it was important for us to choose somewhere where we could hop on a quick flight, we could go spend a long weekend back home, see family, and head back to our new home abroad. For others, that may not be as big of a consideration. The other piece, as far as time zone, really for me, the biggest impact there is work. If I am continuing to work a remote job within the United States, are there time-sensitive deadlines? Are there specific meetings that I'm going to have to be on at scheduled times? And if I am, again, a 1, 2, 3-hour time zone difference may not make a whole lot of difference, but a 12-hour time zone difference certainly will. Do I really want to be, heading into work at 9 p.m. only to get off at 6 a.m. Because I am working a remote job in the United States that has, various meetings throughout the day on East Coast Standard Time? Probably not. And so if that is the case, I may want to stay on this side of the world rather than experiencing that more significant time zone difference. So that is our list for today of the top 5 things to consider when choosing a new destination to relocate to. I hope this content has been helpful to you. If it has been, please like and subscribe. Again, links in the description below for some of the content that we mentioned earlier, and tune in for more videos like this.